Thank you for standing, and I'd like to lead us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Mayor Marino?
Here.
Vice Mayor Marciano?
Here.
Councilmember Woods?
Here, ma'am.
Councilmember Lane?
Here.
Councilmember Litt? Here.
Thank you. Are there any additions, deletions, and modifications?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we will move on to announcements and presentations. And this is the recognition of Evan Travers, Palm Beach Gardens Fire Explorer, post number 705. And may I please have Alex Connolly?
Madam Mayor, councilpersons, about 6 months ago, almost to the date, it was my pleasure to be before you to recognize another of your fire service explorers for and present him with a life-saving award. It's an equal pleasure to return before you here tonight to recognize another explorer for the same thing. Last April, Evan Travers was traveling eastbound on Canner Highway in Stewart on his way to a prom activity when he noticed the car in front of him had lost control and began swerving. He saw that the car had crossed the median and crashed into a large tree. He noticed that there were two passengers inside the car. He pulled his own vehicle off the street into a nearby gas station and rushed to their assistance. When he arrived, he noticed that both of the car doors were locked, but the car contained a female driver who was apparently having a seizure and an elderly male who appeared stunned and was making no effort to get out of the car. A passerby came along and was able to convince the passenger to open the door, unlock the door, and that person was helped to safety. With the assistance of a second passerby, Evan managed to get the driver's side door open and escort the driver, still apparently having a seizure, to the side of the road. Within minutes, the car that crashed was engulfed in flames, but not before both passengers had been taken to safety. It is my pleasure today, on behalf of the National Office of Learning for Life and the Gulfstream Council of the Boy Scouts of America, to recognize Fire Service Explorer Evan Travers for his actions last April and award him with the Learning for Life Life-Saving Honor Award.
Would you like to say something? No? Does anyone have a camera? Let's get some pictures. There we go. Mine's on silent. Thank you. Next, please, may I have Joe Correo? And we are doing an overview of the fleet leasing program.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. For the record, Joe Correo, Director of Public Services. This is a brief overview of our fleet leasing program. City manager and city staff are always looking for innovative ways to save money for the city. And so one of the ways we have come up with to try to save some money and have a much more efficient fleet is to come up with a leasing program that would save us some money, give us better equipment, more efficient vehicles in a shorter amount of time. Our current situation is we have about 230 vehicles in our fleet. 22% of them are over 10 years old. With our tax revenue dictates every year how much money we get to purchase new vehicles. And with that plan, we would cycle the fleet in about 10 years, probably more than 10 years, before we get all new vehicles. Obviously, in that 10-year period, the first car is already 10 years old, so it's kind of a vicious cycle, and it's kind of hard to catch up. So we did a lease-buy analysis and showed that the city could reduce the fleet cost significantly by outsourcing our entire fleet to a fleet management company. Oh, and I did not introduce Greg Ionelli. He is with Enterprise Fleet Management, and this is the company that we've chosen to manage our fleet. Based on the entire fleet could be cycled in 5 years as opposed to 10 years. The resale of the aging fleet would be reduced, and it would reduce fuel maintenance costs because it would be a much newer fleet, and we wouldn't be taxed with changing major components on the vehicles. Everything would be under warranty for the first 3 years, so it would be a much more efficient fleet. Some of the numbers we looked at were we're looking at purchasing actually 51 vehicles. This number is a little off. But miles per gallon for the vehicles we have now are roughly 13 miles per gallon. They're in the shop roughly 24 hours per year for maintenance on an average. They spend at least $1,000 in parts per year with an average hourly rate for the mechanics we factored in as far as costs. We have about 10,000 miles per year on average per vehicle and a total cost of $29,700 on an average to purchase a car outright. So in leasing, we would have the number of vehicles to replace, again, would be about 51. The miles per gallon would increase to about 18. First year of parts would only be at $620. That's your tires, your brakes, your expendable type of parts, so nothing major as far as repairs go. And looking at some of the savings, average fuel costs would go down. We would save roughly $22,000 just in fuel costs. There would be repair costs would be reduced by $50,000. Again, these are all rough numbers, and they're actually very conservative. I think we would probably do better than some of these numbers. We would save about 882 man-hours of fleet mechanic time, so that's, again, a very significant saving. If we were to purchase these vehicles outright, it would cost us about $1,400,000 to purchase them as opposed to leasing. We would only spend a little over $300,000 to acquire the same amount of vehicles by leasing. Some of this, again, the savings overview, we would save about $135,000 over the 5-year lease and $154,000 in man-hours of repairs we would not have to make on the newer vehicles. So the advantages of leasing, again, cash flow, the money that we would normally allocate for purchasing and by leasing would give us a little bit more leverage to use that money elsewhere. We would have newer vehicles, we'd have less maintenance and fuel costs, flexibility in our budget, and a much more flexible assets as the vehicles could be rotated much faster and give us the vehicles we actually need. Future may be electric, so we're looking at electric vehicles as for the first time. We have some hybrids in our fleet currently, but these would be all-out electric plug-in vehicles that would be charged at charging stations that we would have to acquire as an infrastructure to get all of the electric vehicles up and running. We would think departments like code enforcement, fire inspectors, some of the guys who just run general errands between 7 and 3 on the normal hours would be using these vehicles. We have the ability to actually get electric vehicles as a demo at no cost to us whatsoever. We would drive it, issue it out to the different divisions, and they would test it and make sure it suits their needs. And then we can go ahead and lease whichever vehicle works best for us. We could get charging stations at no cost from Nissan, so we're working on that. Those charging stations would be available to the public, so anyone could charge their electric vehicle while on city property. The proposed agreement that we're looking at with Enterprise is a 5-year agreement through the interlocal purchasing system, the purchasing cooperative for structured fleet leasing program. It would allow the city to lease a certain amount of replacement vehicles each year for a specified mileage and term based on current usage. Under this program, the city would cycle its entire fleet again in 5 years. And that's Kumra's, he left me with. So we'd be happy to take any questions that you have regarding this.
Do I have questions? Rochelle?
It's my understanding that these cars also come turnkey ready compared to the 3-month timeline it would take to wait if
Correct.
we were purchasing?
Correct. All the vehicles, trucks, cars, police cars will be turnkey, offloaded from a truck, literally insurance card in the glove box, and you're on your way. Right now, when we purchase police cars, they come and sit in our yard sometimes 3 to 4 months while we wait to be scheduled in to have light bars, cages, and all those components installed. So it's a very long wait. Plus, it takes about 6 employees sometimes to drive them to Pompano Beach, which is where the facility is, get them all back, and then get radios installed. So it's a very long process. This would save a lot of time and, again, a lot of money.
Any other questions?
I have one, Mayor.
Okay.
Is there something within the agreement if a particular group, say SWAT or K-9, their needs change with their vehicle? Is there a way to transfer them into another vehicle that may fit their needs better?
Greg?
Yes, these are.
Actually, yeah.
Yes, these are open-ended leases, so you're able to make those decisions.
So as the agency adjusts, you will adjust along with our needs.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, I traditionally ask 4 questions. I always, as you well know, what other vendors did you consider? Why you chose this vendor? Is this vendor the lowest bidder? And if not the lowest bidder, why did you choose this vendor over the lowest bidder?
Yes. There are actually only 2 companies that offer this service. Enterprise was selected as they have the lower prices, and they actually are the better vendor. The other vendor, I'm sorry, I don't have the name. Kumra kind of left me here with this, so I don't have the name. But yes, all the prices are the lowest that we can get.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, any questions?
I just want to make a couple of comments. I mean, this is a really amazing program to do this. There was a couple of questions that I had for staff, and I don't really want to ask you because I'm questioning. I just think it's important that the residents know there are no limits in mileage, because sometimes with leases you worry about mileage limitations because there's going to be...
The only limits are for the electric cars. There is a
Electric-
10,000 mile
Okay.
per year for the 3-year lease.
Well, as we move forward, and I'm going to be pushing for more electric cars, hopefully we can work on that too, because as a green city, as one that we're trying to become a leader in the community, I'd like to see more of that, and I'm sure that the relationship will grow. The cars are going to be new. We don't have to worry about the maintenance. The staff that we use now for maintenance will be used for other things as opposed to working on 10-year-old cars. And when I first came on the council, Peter and I took a tour of the UTC building, and I think it was in one of the oldest cars in the fleet. And so it'll be nice to see some newer cars to be used by the staff in the city. So thank you.
He was campaigning back then for a new car.
That's probably it. That's it. Thanks.
Also, too, we talked about maintenance and the other opportunities we may have in the future for maintenance. Would you describe that?
Certainly. Our shop can be certified by Enterprise to be the actual maintenance shop for their vehicles. And Seacoast has also gone into an agreement with Enterprise, so we haven't approached them yet, but we could, in theory, do their services and be paid for it.
That's great. Any other questions?
Yeah, Joe.
Perfect.
As far as the electric vehicles go, can you make sure that those get allocated to the correct departments? Because you all know probably that I was a police officer here for a long, long time.
We're
and
not giving one to Carl.
I was a traffic unit. And when we got the natural gas cars, I was lucky enough to get a natural gas car, and I couldn't pull over a moped for 4 miles.
I agree.
So if we can make sure we take care of the cops that way, I'd appreciate it.
We certainly will.
And we will save money with maintenance as well, right? There'll
Yes,
be
sir.
less people who are required to maintain.
Absolutely. We still have the fire engines and the heavy equipment, and so we have plenty of work, so we're not putting anybody out of business by any means, but they'll be doing all the services.
Thank you. Okay.
Good? Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thanks.
Now we have items of resident interest and board and committee reports. Rochelle.
Well, the new year got off to a very busy start, with January being the busiest month I think we've had to date since coming on council to learn and advocate on behalf of the residents of the city. It started with the mayor and I joining fellow elected officials from all over Palm Beach County up in Tallahassee for Palm Beach County Days. Mayor will talk a little bit more about it, but we face challenges with the current legislature's attack on home rule, and meeting face-to-face with our state representatives and senators plays a crucial role in protecting municipal government and what we love about Palm Beach Gardens. We even went up a day earlier than the delegation so that we could get some extra appointment times on select issues that were particularly important to our city. Local events that I attended during the month were the Forum Club with the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, the Palm Beach County Human Rights Coalition Winter Event, our Green Market had their Sweet 16 celebration, Palm Beach North Chamber had a breakfast with County Administrator Virginia Baker presenting a State of the County report. The League of Cities, I went to the Water Task Force meeting that I sit on. There was a Melanoma Foundation event. We had an amazing Arbor Day celebration sponsored by the Palm Beach Gardens Women's Club, and our Riverside and Richmond students got to participate in that, and it was really a lot of fun. I went to an opioid task force meeting with State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg and Deputy State Attorney Al Johnson. The fire station open house was a lot of fun, and my granddaughter had a blast spraying the hose at everyone. The county commission meeting where our district park interlocal agreement was finalized. There was the West Palm Beach Chamber State of the City breakfast with Mayor Jerry Moyo. A League of Cities annual membership luncheon where once again home rule was the main topic discussed. The PGA National Homeowners Association where our mayor, police chief, and fire chief presented to the PGA National community. There was a beautiful retirement party for now former Deputy City Manager Jack Downey. He will be missed. The Komen Race for the Cure, where I volunteered in the Survivor Pavilion, and the Steeplechase Community Homeowners Association meeting. And there was one other event that I attended that had the most profound effect over everything that I did this month, and that was a movie screening of I Am Jane Doe at the Palm Beach County Commission Chambers. It was sponsored by 10 local advocacy organizations to mark Human Trafficking Awareness Day on January 11th. County Mayor Melissa McKinley spoke about the work that the county is now doing and the arrests that are being made locally, thanks to the passage of a bill sponsored at the state level by Commissioner Dave Kerner when he was in the legislature to fight this horrendous crime in our communities. And contrary to common assumption, human trafficking is not just a problem in Thailand and China and other countries. Cases of human trafficking have been reported in all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and the U.S. territories. And more frequently than not, it involves children, although the victims of human trafficking can be children or adults, U.S. citizens or foreign nationals, male or female. In short, human trafficking is a form of modern slavery, and those who recruit minors into commercial sexual exploitation violate federal anti-trafficking laws, even if there is no force, fraud, or coercion, and the children go willingly. Children at risk aren't just high school students. The pimps or the traffickers are known to prey on victims as young as 9 years old. And they get targeted through social media, online chat rooms, after-school programs, at shopping malls, on bus depots, in clubs, and through their friends who are already involved. This movie, I Am Jane Doe, chronicles the battle of American mothers who are waging war on behalf of their middle school daughters who were victims of sex trafficking. It was narrated by Jessica Chastain. It's an amazing movie, and being that the Palm Beach County School Superintendent, Robert Avosa, is making sure our teachers are trained to know what to look for, and our first responders are being trained as well and stepping up to the challenge. There was a major arrest last week or the week before that broke a ring that was affecting one of the schools in the county. It's incumbent upon every one of us to know the signs to look for in our community, and I would ask you to log on to endslaverynow.org, which is the website of the Human Trafficking Coalition of the Palm Beaches, and check out this numbing film at IamJaneDoeFilm.com.
Thank you, Rochelle. Matthew.
Michelle, thank you for using your time to make us aware of human trafficking. That was really great use of items of resident interest. It's wonderful. It was a busy month, as Rochelle said. We went to the PGA Corridor Association breakfast with Henry Fishkind, which was excellent. Chamber Government Affairs Committee, where we talked about constitutional revisions that are coming up, the Green Market Anniversary. Had a chamber breakfast where we saw the state of the county and Virginia Baker. We had a beautiful Arbor Day celebration. Went to the NCNC, which is always very interesting. Steeplechase had a homeowners board meeting. A fantastic Arbor Day, and it was great to be with the kids. We also went to the county commission, and that pretty much wraps it, except for I see we have in the audience Mayor Levy. It's a pleasure to have you here, Mayor Levy, and hello, Lee. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Mark. Or Carl.
All right, well, they took all my steam. I wasn't at nearly as many events as Rochelle, but I do get around, and I do talk to a lot of residents. I think that's really the key, is that we're out and we're making sure we're listening to our residents and trying to bring whatever information we can back. PGA Corridor breakfast, the Green Market 16th birthday, chamber breakfast, economic forums, Arbor Day celebration. It was cold that morning, but it was a very nice celebration, and kudos to the city forester for keeping that tradition moving along forward. The county commission was probably one of the highlights of the month. A couple of POA meetings. I toured St. Mark's. It's a wonderful facility, a great school. There was a couple of really fun events that I think this job makes it more entertaining sometimes. And if you don't mind, I'm going to add a little levity to the meeting here for a moment. We had two events, both with St. Clair's Catholic School, where my kids had it. One is attending and one isn't. Yesterday morning, I want to thank the mayor and Councilman Lane. I know that the other two have been feeling a little bit ill. But it was fun to sit there and make fun of my 8th grade son at the prayer service yesterday morning, and that was a lot of fun, and I thank you guys for coming. The other event was the 3rd grade class. I really want to thank Patty for helping organize the 3rd grade tour of the council, Jerry, who's not here, Chief Stepp, Chief Breyer, and really the people that work within your departments to take those kids around. We actually came in the chamber hall here as well, and I just wanted to read. They sent me a bunch of thank yous. All of them. And when you see a bunch of 3rd graders write you thank yous for allowing them to come, it was a lot of fun. They were supposed to say thank you and give them their favorite part. And most of them drew pictures of trucks and toilets. And so the question was, yes, the question was what the toilets were for. So let me just tell you what it was. Thank you so much for showing me the city council meeting. And guess what? My 2 favorite things I saw, the jail cell and where the city council meets. Thank you for inviting us to City Hall. Hope you had a nice time. My favorite part was when we got to sit in those big chairs. It was fun hitting the gavel. Thank you for inviting us to the City Hall. My favorite part was the big truck. And the last one, I thought, well, there was many more, but this was the best one. Thank you for having us. We had a blast. My favorite part was when we went to the jail cell. I never want to be in there. It is stinky. I never want to get a mug shot. Thank you so much. It was my favorite field trip ever. So thank you to the city. This is really what makes this job fun. And I just want to thank the city staff for allowing us to bring them. And please, if anyone has any other children in any other schools that need a tour of City Hall, I'm sure the staff would be happy to do that too. So that's it.
Thank you, Mark. Carl.
I can't top any of that. Rochelle, excellent. By the way, thank you for your diligence this month. Mark, excellent job. And I would be redundant with all the meetings that my fellow council members have already spoken with. You all know normally I like to do something of an item for public interest that is outside of all the meetings that we go to. It's not to take light on how many meetings we go to that helps guide us to make decisions for the city. But, Mayor, I'd like to roll over my time to the city manager's report because that is truly an item for public interest, if you don't mind.
Okay. Do you want to, so we'll wait till he does
Yeah,
the
I'll
city
just
manager's
donate my
report.
time over to
Perfect.
the manager.
Okay. Like Rochelle, I have a lot of words, and I just want to say, glad you're all here. Palm Beach North Governmental Affairs Committee meeting was an interesting presentation by Belinda Kaiser, who sits on the Florida Constitutional Revision Commission. Why it was interesting is because currently there are 103 recommendations from the commission, and there are over 700 recommendations from Florida residents. Like Rochelle, I attended the Forum Club. Last month, you may remember that we had a proclamation for 2 Eagle Scouts. I was actually presented those proclamations to them at the Eagle Court of Honor for Schuyler and Quinler Stewart. Palm Beach County Day, as Rochelle said, we had an opportunity to speak with legislators in the area and plead our case about the attack on home rule and other topics such as sober homes, communications, and appropriations for local projects, which in some instances we have matching funds. The House wanted to give us $750,000 for hardening the City Hall. The Senate decided $100,000. Who knows what's going to be in the end? So we just need to keep pushing in order to get some of the dollars that we deserve. I'd also like to say thank you to the county, the school board, the League of Cities, and the Economic Council for being sponsors of this event. I attended the Scripps Research Institute Prader-Willi Syndrome Research Celebration, which was a discussion about a new drug that has been developed for the Prader-Willi syndrome and how Scripps is actually going to expand to take that drug to market. So it was a very interesting topic of conversation, especially for an institute that's right here in our backyard. As Rochelle said, Sweet 16 Green Market, and I'd also like to say thank you to the Palm Beach Gardens Medical Center for continuing its sponsorship of the Green Market. I had the fun duty of being in the South Florida Fair Mayor's Parade, along with 20 other mayors from around the county, and hosting the Palm Beach North Prosperity Leadership Program. We had over 30 business leaders from around the community here. They were given a tour of our EOC, our dispatch area, and their tactical training center, and one of the comments was they wish that they had had more time in the city of Palm Beach Gardens and learning what we do because we do it so well. So I applaud our staff and our first responders for doing such a great job that day. I met with Steve Craig, David Baker, and Ken Kirby from Career Source and learned just how much this program has partnered with the city and local businesses, and actually learned it's not just entry-level jobs. So if you are looking to find some executives, Career Source is a great place to start. Bank opening for Professional Bank right here on PGA Boulevard, which is another new business in our city. They are down south, and we're the only branch that they have in this area. Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council was a lively discussion about Westlake and the impact it was going to have on the roads. And the reason I say that is because those roads, even though they are in the county, are actually maintained by the acreage, and they weren't built to county standards, so they're a little hesitant about the traffic on the roads. As Rochelle said, Palm Beach Gardens Fire Rescue, and I believe we had over 1,000 people. Fabulous. Business Development Board reception, and you heard everybody say Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners, where we finally received approval for the development of the 80-acre district park. And yes, that deserves a clap. Palm Beach County League of Cities Board of Directors meeting, followed by the general membership meeting, and home rule was again the topic of discussion. Also the topic of discussion was licensing. This is an interesting one. Licensing for people in the adult entertainment business, because apparently if they're not licensed on a more frequent basis, it is also a place where human trafficking occurs. So it is something that is what we don't think is prevalent, but it is happening in our community, so we need to be diligent. PGA Property Owners Association, I took a tour of the Palm Beach County Library Gardens branch, which is the largest branch in the county, I didn't know this, and over 40,000 square feet and serves over 1,000 people a day. So that's the branch that's right next to our fire station. Anybody who hasn't been there, please go get your library card. Actually, I was a guest speaker on ESPN Radio at the Green Market in reference to the partnership of the city and the Honda Classic, along with other recreational activities available to our local families. Steeplechase Homeowners Association meeting, where we did a brief state of the city and updated them on some related traffic concerns on North Lake and the Beeline. St. Clair's, that was a very nice event. And like Mark, I also toured St. Mark's, and it was great to hear their comments on the positive partnership between St. Mark's and the city, and that this partnership that they've had over the years, and how wonderful it's been to work with our staff. So thank you very much for making that happen, and it shows a great partnership. I was running a little late for the meeting tonight because I was attending the Safe Streets Summit today and also tomorrow. I do want to wish best wishes and good luck to our Assistant City Manager, Jack Downey, who just retired after 18 years of service with our city and almost 40 years in various jobs in municipal government. And I'd like to welcome Chief Stepp as the Interim Assistant City Manager, and also Clint Shannon as the Interim Chief of Police. Thank you very much. I'm sure I took a little thunder from Ron, but you know, you gentlemen are doing a great job. I'm still going to call Chief Stepp Chief. I don't know how not to do that. So I'm also, if you notice, some of us have red on this evening in some fashion or form, and I encourage everyone to wear red tomorrow in support of the American Heart Association Go Red for Women movement. I look forward to seeing everyone at the grand opening of the Sandhill Crane Golf Clubhouse on the weekend of February 16th, 17th, and 18th. And for those of you that don't know this, there is an event at Roger Dean Stadium on February 10th called Heroes and Hotshots, where we will be celebrating student aces for leadership. And if you want to see how bad I am at kickball, you can join us at 1 o'clock. And lastly, as we celebrate the sweet 16th anniversary of the Honda Classic in Palm Beach Gardens, I hope you will come out and support this great event, because it has donated over $25 million to local charities. With that, I'm done with my small list, and I am going to move on to comments from the public, and these are for items that are not on the agenda. And I'd also like to read something. It's comments from the public. Comment cards must be submitted prior to the commencement of each agenda item. No additional comment cards will be accepted after the agenda item has commenced. Each speaker is limited to 1 comment card per agenda item. Separate comment cards must be completed and submitted to the city clerk for each specific agenda item. This is posted over there. And the reason we do this is because if there is a massive amount of cards on one topic, we need to know in advance, because then we like to give the public 3 minutes, but if we have way too many cards, then we might only be able to give the public 2 minutes. So that's why hopefully that clears it up for the future. And at this time, I have several cards, so I will call Paula Magnuson, then Adam G., and then Carol Easton. And you have, please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
May I give this to the clerk? I have something for the clerk.
Is she allowed to give you stuff during the meeting?
Well, I can't get my stuff date stamped when I come in and deliver them by hand, so at the council meeting they get recognized. Thank you.
I don't believe that's accurate, but you can hand those to our city clerk at this moment.
Paula Magnuson, 3167D Gardens East Drive. I'd like to start off by saying how thankful I am I live in a country where I can speak freely in opposition to a government agency, and hope the city respects and honors this privilege. Councilman Woods, at the last council meeting, you complained about many emails you received from residents expressing opposition to your stand on changing the term limits after thousands of people voted for the current term limits. They have a right to do so. You also stated that you would visit every resident that sent you an email. In fact,
Magnuson, I'm sorry, but you address us as a body, not as individual people. And it's not proper for you to address individuals like that. So I would appreciate if you address us as a body.
My comment card stated I was going to respond to each councilman.
Let me repeat myself. I would appreciate it if you address us as a body.
Well, you guys didn't make a comment about visiting everybody that sent you an email. Okay? If you do not want emails, you can just block the emails just like the city manager does and the mayor. You can just block their emails or do not respond. I'm not allowed to give Mr. Lane, Councilman Lane, a comment.
Well, obviously you're going to, so go right ahead.
I just want to thank Councilman Lane for standing for what is right and for the will of thousands of voters on term limits issue. You have my support as well as many other supporters. I admire your intelligence, diplomacy, and your due diligence. You are a tremendous asset to the city of Palm Beach Gardens and the residents. And I thank you. I don't think you want to hear what I have written for you, so I'll just pass. Thank you.
Adam G., and then Carol Easton.
Adam G., 10 Blenheim Court. My name's Adam G. I'm the Director of Coaching for Palm Beach Gardens Predators, the soccer program. I'm really here in opposite fact to that as a thank you to the City Council, past and present, and the city staff for all your work with the District Park. While it's been a short window of approval, as a person in the soccer industry, there's been already a lot of buzz about the potential for what this district park will bring to the area in terms of events, but also in terms of economic impact. So I'm just here to express, on behalf of our soccer organization, which is about 1,800 players, which is ages between 5 and 18, our thanks and our sincere excitement at what we're going to do for the future for the city. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Carol Easton, then David Levy, and then Damian Murray. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Carol Easton. I live at 8342 Sunset Drive, Palm Beach Gardens. I just want to thank you all for working so hard this month. I see that you were very busy, and I do appreciate that. Now I'm going to try to address you as a body. So I see what I'd like to ask you as a body is how much you really know what transpired between the city and my husband, Kevin Easton. After last month's city council meeting, I had a chance to speak with 1/5 of you, and you told me, and that 1/5 told me that you knew everything about it, and please, I'm asking you for your forgiveness already when I say I don't know how that's possible. For example, I don't think you know that I went to jail for trying to save a 200-year-old tree that was located on our property, and there wasn't even so much as an easement. Yet I was treated as a criminal, and I believe that the council should be made aware of things that happened under the previous administration. In the interest of being brief, I will just say that our rights were trampled on, and our lawyers were out-lawyered, and it was bleeding us dry. Our feet were held to the fire, and we dropped the lawsuit to have a global settlement. But we still have voices, and I intend to use mine. Just because a lawyer can do something doesn't mean that they should. After years and years of work, my husband brought positive change to our neighborhood, and as a result, we were fined $40,000 on a trumped-up code violation as thanks for it. Once again, our feet were in the fire. Right now, I know $40,000 doesn't sound like a whole lot of money, but we could use it to put a new roof on one of our rental properties, put up fences that would that were destroyed when the cul-de-sacs were put in. I just wonder what the takeaway should be here. Should people that voted you into office be afraid to just keep their mouth shut because they're in fear of code enforcement of Palm Beach Gardens will find a way to foreclose on their properties? And yes, everyone knows that Max Loman is that good. Shh, be quiet or you're going to end up like Kevin Easton. I've heard that so many times. Please, council people, take a look into this matter a little bit deeper. One question asked of the city lawyer or the city manager is just not good enough. One more thing I'd like to mention is that the dive shop at the end of Sunset is now empty, and that might be you might want to take that into consideration with the DOT coming up when they're changing the 95 North Lake interchange. I'm thinking if that's closed, there might be a little bit more leeway to make that area safer. I know that Kevin and I have paid a great price to bring improvement to the Sunset neighborhood, and I would hate to think that anybody would have to, well, I guess that's it. Respectfully, please, I'm going to be calling you individually.
Thank you.
And I would like to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David, and then Damien, and then Tony Badala.
Good evening. Nice to be back.
Hi, David.
On Monday, well, actually, I believe several months ago.
Name and address for the record. You should know
you're
that.
Right. I should, shouldn't I? I've asked myself that often. David Levy, 4788 Holly Drive, Palm Beach Gardens. A few months ago, you appointed me to represent you in front of the Loxahatchee River Management Coordinating Council. Well, we had our first meeting since I was reappointed to that council on Monday, and I just wanted to briefly go over what we discussed and try and keep it non-scientific. First off, and this isn't scientific at all, we elected officers. Our own John Rickard was elected as the chair. Herb Zebeth was elected as vice chair, and I must have been out of the meeting or something. I elected me secretary. And so I will be the secretary of the Loxahatchee River Management Coordinating Council. Then we had a discussion about a proposed land swap at a property known as the Palmar. The Palmar is about 26,000 acres located between, with the county line of Martin and Palm Beach going through it. It's all wet. There is mostly, it's in government ownership. The Southwest, or the South Florida Water Management District, Florida Wildlife Commission, the counties, Palm Beach and Martin County, own a good portion of that property out there. It's zoned in Palm Beach County 1 unit to 10 acres and 1 unit to 20 acres in Martin County. The issue is there are private landowners in that want to develop it. This would be damaging for the river because of runoff, specifically pollutants such as nitrogen and phosphorus. So we had a presentation and we voted to inform all of the agencies that we would oppose any operation that will allow development in the Palmar district, which is west and it literally is underwater. It also has a 298 special district for drainage. They do not have a drainage plan. They don't have money for a drainage plan. The main property owners, South Florida Water Management District, Florida Wildlife Commission, have not paid their dues, and now Martin County is thinking of not paying their dues. Issue with that would be give the private landowners more votes. So with that, we instructed the chair to write a letter opposing our opposition to any types of land swaps that could be out there to consolidate property so that the development could occur. The next thing that we talked about, and fortunately for you all, the last thing we talked about, by the way, this was a 4-hour meeting that I'm trying to compress into less than 3 minutes, and I did not do it. But quickly, we had an update from the Department of Environmental Protection on the Reasonable Assurance Plan, which is a way of trying to reduce phosphorus and nitrogen coming into the river. Those are pollutants which cause algae blooms and other problems, and that's what causes the St. Lucie estuary to smell bad. All right, with that.
Would you send us your report?
I can write one up and send it to you.
That'd be
so
fabulous.
Desire.
That'd be great. Thank
All right.
you.
Are you
Thanks,
sure
David.
you want to read that?
Sure.
Okay.
I read everything else.
Yeah, and I'm on
Oh
the
my
Water
God.
Task Force, so that would be good to have.
Yes, well, I served on that board also, so yes, they are very well tied in together, and it is very interesting. So at some point, you might want to attend one of the Loxahatchee River meetings.
And
All right.
And David,
Thank you.
David, can we set up a meeting on this? Because I'm not going to want to read your scientific report. I'm probably going to have a lot of questions for you.
Sure,
So can we do
anytime.
something in the next few weeks and so we can go over this in detail,
absolutely.
please?
You got my number. Give
And
me
how
a
it'll
call.
affect the city and so on and our water.
A lot of this doesn't, the reason why the city is on this board is because the Loxahatchee Slough is the headwaters of the Loxahatchee River, and the Loxahatchee Slough is in the city. Yeah, I think that's 23,000 acres, and you may recall that we rezoned that from industrial, commercial, and residential to conservation about 5 or 6 years ago, if I remember right.
Thank
Okay.
you. Damien and then Tony. And those are all the cards I have.
Damien Murray, 10171 Sienna Oaks Circle East, Palm Beach Gardens. Ms. Mayor, Council members, I'm just really here to follow up what Adam about District Park and how excited we are. But I would like to first start and say thank you also for, my daughter was actually one of the third graders from St. Clair's who actually visited, so she had an absolute blast, so thank you as well for that. Again, I'm here to follow up what Adam says. These are really exciting times for soccer in Palm Beach Gardens as well as Palm Beach County. This is a game changer in our view. We think it could be a huge economic impact for the city and the county. I want to thank especially all the city staff who've been just awesome to work with. I know with Todd, David, Jack, and Mr. Ferris, I mean, it's been an interesting few months. I never thought I'd see this happen. I've been involved since 2008, so to see where it's come in the last 10 years has just been an awesome thing, and I want to thank you again.
Thank you.
If I just may say, these guys, I've known them since my kids were starting in the soccer program, and their commitment to the program, to the city, to the rec department is amazing, and I thank you guys for everything you do for the kids in the city.
Tony, you still here? By the way, thank you for coming to the County Commission meeting the other day.
You're so welcome. Anthony Bedell, 13321 Rolling Green Road. I'm here just to say, again, thank you. You know, a lot of people in the private sector know how much time it takes to get in front of a council and do everything and get everything approved, but that's for a gain. Here, you guys and staff, I mean, what the time and that you took out of your own personal lives to get this passed, it's truly appreciated. The YEA, I'm here on behalf of the YEA, which 5,000 participants, and Damien, who just 3 years ago, I don't think was a fan favorite of the city staff, and that's another testament to Jack, because single-handedly Jack and myself worked through that. Now he's one of the best guys in everybody's eyes, which he always is. For 7 years, president of the soccer division, and the hours and everything else he puts into it is just incredible. But that's like most of us that represent the YA. But once again, just want to thank you for your time, selfless time, and everything you put into this. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I have no more comments from the public, so it's time for the city manager report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that. It'll be a brief report because you reported on just about everything I had on my list this evening, except for a couple items that I think is important. On tonight's consent agenda, Resolution 9, which is a municipal home rule resolution. It's opposing the legislative efforts to impede the constitutional right of Florida citizens to enjoy nearly 50 years to govern themselves under what is called the municipal home rule powers. We're opposing the legislature's persistent intrusion into the local finances that are necessary to provide financial stability and essential services uniquely required by municipal residents and local businesses. This year at the Florida legislative session, there's an attack on home rule, and there are many different pieces of legislation that are aimed at a preemptive strike against home rule and the powers of the local government. This is unprecedented to the level that it has reached. There are numerous bills, I won't cover them all, but some of them that have implications on finances and the manner in which your local government can actually govern the city. They have a right of local self-government, like I said, has been a constitutional revision for 50 years, and it's under attack. One of the bills, both in the Senate and the House, would require local elections to occur in March or November, which is in direct conflict with the contract that we have with the SOE that requires our local elections not to occur in November. It preempts the local government's ability to determine the date of their own elections and will be determined by the state, not your local cities. There's a simple little tree trimming bill. You would think that tree trimming is not of a state concern, but the tree trimming bill and removal would regulate how trees and vegetation are trimmed and removed in right-of-ways and in other areas such as northern Palm Beach County districts or any community development district would have the authority to do that without any city oversight, without the forester knowing about it, and without having any restrictions whatsoever. You can imagine what type of hat racking and things would go on in that kind of a situation. Another one was economic development. This limits the staff and the agencies in the recruitment and the retention of economic development projects. The overall spending, travel, and confidentiality issues are under attack. That directly impacts the development, the Palm Beach County Business Development Board, where all of our projects come from that are located here, and puts them at a disadvantage when competing for economic development projects around the states. So with the enactment of the Economic Development Bill, House Bill 3, Senate Bill 1714, it puts this community, this state, at a disadvantage, and we will not have the same competitive edge that we have experienced over the years through the BDB, which brings us all of our economic development projects. It's a very dangerous bill financially. Affordable housing. This bill sets a precedent prohibiting the use of impact fees and mobility fees in order to use those fees for incentives for affordable housing. We all know how important affordable housing is to every community and to the businesses. So there are issues with this too, in as much as as the bill stands today, a 60-day review of affordable housing applications, which normally takes 120 days to get through. Otherwise, the projects are automatically approved. And these are projects we cannot use the impact fees or mobility impact fees to help fund and incentivize affordable housing. They're taking away the finances. Vacation rentals is another issue. Basically, this issue, the concern here is that all regulation of the vacation rentals are preempted by the state. It takes away local authority. Not only does it take away local government authority, it takes away the authority of HOAs and POAs to be able to control vacation rentals as well. So all the applications will go to the state, and the state will approve them, not the cities. There are no regulations. In addition to that, there are other ones like the dockless bicycle sharing, travel restrictions, permit fees, firefighter cancer presumption, and first responders, workers' comp issues with PTSD disorders that all have huge financial impacts on local government. Again, this is the state trying to preempt local government authority to rule itself. This is the local government that is closest to the people, and they're trying to take away the authority to have the citizens and their council decide what's best for them in their localities. It's amazing to think that at the state legislature, they know what's better for this community than this community itself. It's appalling. So I don't know where these bills are going to end up. Every day they change, and one changed today, as a matter of fact. But as the mayor mentioned, I'll move on from that into our appropriation requests. Stormwater maintenance repair operation requested $250,000. The House proposed funding, the Senate did not. It does not look good for that one. We talked about City Hall emergency expansion. We'll be expanding City Hall in the near future. We wanted to harden that facility. We requested assistance from $750,000, which was proposed in the House so far. The Senate proposed $100,000. Third, we were looking at a septic to sewer water infrastructure project. It didn't get any recommended funding at all. This is across the board at the state legislature. There aren't many of these projects that are being funded from any source, and it just doesn't look good for funding again this year. Moving on from there, we're looking at staff recommending approval of Resolution 9, as I read a little bit earlier, which is in your consent agenda. Moving on from that, we have the fire rescue open house, which was already mentioned, that we had over 1,000 attendees, and great cooperation between the fire and police department and all the other departments here that helped put on this great event. We're very proud of that, and they did a great job. Also, the mayor mentioned to you the Sandhill Crane Golf Clubhouse opening house, Sunday, February 18th. We're going to have tours of the new clubhouse, face painting, and we'll have recreational activities, photo booths, interactive games for the family, DJ music, beverages. The new restaurant will be opening up. This is a family day on Sunday. We want families to come out and enjoy and see what has been developed out here. It's on North Lake Boulevard. The address is 11401 North Lake, but if you haven't been out to the golf course, there's a big change that's occurred there, and more changes occurring as we speak. We want everyone to come out and bring the family on February 18th. And with that, I thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. On to the consent agenda. Unbelievable. 8 o'clock. All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
All right, I got a first from Rochelle, a second from Mark. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Tonight we are holding quasi-judicial hearings on the following case. Ordinance 3, 2018. This is the second reading to update the comprehensive plan. This means that the City Council is required by law to base its decisions on the evidence contained in the record of this proceeding, which consists of the testimony at the hearing, the materials which are in the official city file on this application, and any documents presented during this hearing. The Council is also required by law to allow cross-examination of any witnesses who testify tonight. Cross-examination may occur after the staff, the applicant, and other participants have made their presentations and will be permitted in the order of the witness's appearance.
It was actually annotated incorrectly, so it's not quasi-judicial. So we have no quasi-judicial.
You should have stopped me. This is a lot of words. All right, I apologize. We don't have it. Annotated incorrectly. So we're going to public hearings now, and I am going to ask the clerk to read the title.
Ordinance 1, 2018, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending the City of Palm Beach Gardens budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2017, and ending September 30, 2018, inclusive, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date for other purposes.
Thank you. I will open the hearing. Has anything changed since the first reading?
No, there have been no changes since first reading.
Okay. Do we need a presentation? Anybody? Okay. I don't have any comment cards, so I'm going to close the hearing. May I get a motion and a second to approve, please?
I'll make the motion to approve Ordinance 1, 2018.
I'll second it.
Fabulous. I'm bringing back for discussion. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Mayor, Councilmember Lane is off the dais.
So we'll
passes 4-0.
Thank you. Okay, so this is non-quasi-judicial ordinance 3, correct?
That's correct, yes.
All right, that was the annotation that was wrong. Thank you. All right, May I have the clerk read the title, please?
Ordinance 3, 2018, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving an update to its comprehensive plan in accordance with the mandates set forth in sections 163.3177 Florida statutes, pursuant to a city-initiated update that provides for the annual update to the 5-year capital improvement schedule within the capital improvements element, providing that the data as amended or revised shall be substituted for and replace the existing data in the capital improvements element, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Has anything changed since the first reading?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Peter Hoffines, Planning Manager. Nothing has changed since this first reading.
Thank you. Do we need a presentation?
No, ma'am.
I see no heads shaking yes. So I will close the hearing. May I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 4, 2018. No, sorry, ordinance 3, 2018 on second reading.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. I will bring it back for discussion. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ordinance 4. May I have the clerk read the title, please?
Ordinance 4, 2018, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 50, Police of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, at Article 3, Police Officers Retirement Trust Fund, creating a new section 50-153, Police Share Plan, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. I will open the hearing. May I have a staff present? Hello, Alan. How are you?
Hello. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Alan Owens, Finance Administrator for the record. Ordinance 4, 2018, our proposed police pension amendments. And to start with a little bit of background, basically due to some recent changes to Chapter 185 of Florida statutes, our local plan is required to establish what they call share plans. Just a little more background as far as Chapter 185, that is the section of the statutes that governs local municipal police officers' pension plans. The benefit of that being in that program is if they meet certain minimum levels of benefits and meet all the reporting requirements, those plans are eligible to receive a share of a premium tax money that's paid on casualty insurance, such as auto insurance, policies that are issued within the boundaries of the city. And that premium tax is 0.85% of all policies. So again, these changes required basically what it says is that if the local collective bargaining agreements does not have language that specifies how these 185 monies are to be used, the state has default provisions that must be followed. So basically that's why we are proposing these amendments, because we have to comply with the state statutes. These share plans will be funded 100% by the 185 premium tax revenues. And how will the premium taxes be allocated? As I said, unless the collective bargaining agreement has specific language that governs how the premium taxes are going to be used, you have to follow the state's default provisions. So the first part of the calculation deals with money that's held in reserve. The fund has built up 185 money that's not allocated. As of the most recent valuation, there was a total of about $300,000. Under the requirements, 1/2 of that money will go to fund the share plan. The other 1/2 will go to pay towards some of the unfunded liabilities of the plan. Then going forward, 1/2 of the annual monies that are received each year, there'll be a calculation. 1/2 of the money that's received in each year that exceeds the money that was received in 2013, which they call the base year. 1/2 of that difference then will go to fund the share plans. The other 1/2 will go to offset the city's contribution. So the initial allocation, how much is being allocated? It comes out to $238,278, and that comprises of the following: 50%. As I mentioned, the total reserve as of the most recent valuation was $308,511. So 1/2 of that amount is $154,256. The other amount is 50% of the first year of the annual allocation. The most recent valuation is based on the 2016 revenues. That total was $643,259. The base year amount was $475,215. So you do the math, one half of the difference, the excess, is $84,022. So the total contribution, the initial allocation will be $238,278. There will be another allocation, assuming that this passes council action. That will be based on the most recent valuation that's currently being performed as of 10/1/17. And who is eligible to participate? Well, the pension board hired an actuarial firm, GRS, and they prepared several options for consideration of the members. And on July 27, 2017, the membership voted on the following option. Members with at least 1 year of credited service who are contributing to and participating in the plan on or after July 27, 2017, and members who retire on or after that date are eligible to participate in the share plan. Members who retired before that date, members who were participating in the deferred retirement option plan or drop on that date, and former members who left city employment before July 27, 2017 are not eligible to participate in the share plan. So again, this is required to comply with current state statutes. There is no cost to the city. In fact, there is a benefit to both the members and the city from adopting these changes. And just one other item, Mayor, you had asked in our agenda review what the city's contribution, I believe I said 2.3, but I checked, it actually is 2.8 million.
Okay, I have that written down. Thank you.
And with that, staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Alan? Mark? Mark, you've got that query look.
No, I'm actually happy. Going back a number of years and on the budget committee, Alan we'd always talked about trying to fund the police and fire pension plans, and we'd taken dollars out of the budget stabilization fund many times over the years to bolster the percentage, and this is just a simple way for the city to continue to do that without having to transfer dollars from the budget fund to the general pension fund. And then, of course, now we have an additional shared plan for our officers that will be retiring at some point in the future. So I think it's a nice way to give our officers a little bit more security in their retirement, and it also allows the city to fund its general pension obligations without having to dip into the budget fund. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
I would like to mention, you mentioned the funding, and both the police and the fire pension plans are approaching 80%. I expect they'll be at least 80%, maybe a little bit more when the current valuation is done. So they're both have made considerably, good progress, and that 80% benchmark is really generally accepted as a sound funding level of a defined benefit pension plan. So they're both in good financial condition right now.
I think the only concern I had, and we talked about this over the years too, is the assumptions. Right now the assumptions are probably a little low, but during economic downturns the assumptions are generally high. But if this is standard practice, then this is what we'll.
Again, the assumptions over a long, over the long haul. So that's why they look at that over an extended period of time.
And for those that don't know, the money for this comes from and this is one of the questions we had in my agenda review today. The money that is collected here is collected from the premium on automobile policies, and then
Casualty insurance, a good example is automobile liability, whereas on the 175, which governs the firefighters' pension funds, that's a premium tax assessed on property insurance policies that are issued within the city boundaries.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to wait a second. There we go. I'm looking at this and going, okay, may I have a motion and a second, please?
That we approve Ordinance 4.
May I have a second, please? Thank you. I'll bring it back for discussion. Are there any other questions for Alan? Or comments? Thank you. Okay. Then hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, may I have the clerk read the title for Ordinance 5, please?
Ordinance 5, 2018, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, annexing pursuant to a petition for voluntary annexation a parcel of real property comprising a total of 0.85 acres more or less, located on the east side of alternate A1A, approximately 1/2 mile south of the intersection of alternate A1A and Hood Road in Palm Beach County, Florida. This is more particularly described herein, declaring that the voluntary annexation petition bears the signature of the owner of the real property annexed hereby. Amending Article 2 of the City Charter by redefining the corporate limits, providing the transmittal to the Florida Department of State, the Florida Governor's Office, and Palm Beach County, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date for the purposes.
Thank you. I'm going to open the hearing. And hello, Martin. Staff presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. For the record, I'm Martin Fitz, planner. This is a voluntary annexation petition for 2 parcels totaling approximately 0.85 acres on the southeast corner of alternate A1A and Florida Boulevard. The city was approached by the owners, A1 Cabana Partners, Kevin Dalton, to discuss the possibility of coming into the city with the idea of developing it as a gas station and a hand car wash. Just to familiarize you with where it's at, this is the property is located approximately a 1/2 mile south of Hood Road. As you can see, the city is on 3 sides of the Cabana Colony area, and this will be the first annexation within this area. The site is currently developed as a gas station, and the second parcel is a closed dry cleaning site. This was a drop site for the dry cleaning, and no actual cleaning was done, so there was no contamination. The site has been approved in the county for a new convenience store and a mechanical car wash. This site does meet Florida statutes for annexation. It has 1 owner. It's contiguous to the city boundary. It is compact in nature and will not create an enclave or a pocket of unincorporated area. As with any annexation, we did a level of service analysis of the impact of bringing the properties into the city. The site is currently serviced for all of our levels of service, and those will not change. And there will be no direct adverse impacts on annexing the property into the city. The property has been duly noticed and posted. This property is a voluntary annexation, so we have to follow the county's annexation code or ordinance. We followed that by sending notice to the county administrator and the planning administrator. And this property is not within the unincorporated protection area, so there's no requirement for a vote from the Board of County Commissioners, but they have been notified. In summary, this property is consistent with the state, county, and city ordinances or statutes. It did go to the Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board and was voted on for approval with a vote of 7-0. Staff is recommending approval of Ordinance 5 as presented on first reading, and staff and the applicants are here if you have any questions.
Thank you. I actually do not have any comment cards on this, so I will close the hearing. May I get a motion and a second to approve, please?
I'm looking forward to the car wash, and I'll make.
May I have a motion and a second, please?
It's close to my house. I make the motion.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. I will bring it back for discussion. Any discussion? Now you can say you want.
Okay. I look forward to the car wash that's close to my house.
You said something about the permitting. Has Kevin started going through the permitting process through the county already?
No, ma'am. The previous owner received approval for the new gas station and a mechanical car wash, and that approval is still with the property. Mr. Dalton is working with the city to look at redeveloping it as maintaining the gas station as it is and developing it as a hand car wash instead of the mechanical car wash.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but Mr. Dalton, that you own a number of properties and gas stations in the city, so we really shouldn't. Every property you've maintained very well, and it's been an asset to the city. So when I saw that you were the applicant and were looking to come in the city, it seemed a natural fit. So.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. So I'm on to Resolutions. I don't see any. Okay. Items for council action and discussion. Anybody have anything they'd like to discuss? Questions? Actually, Rochelle, I saw the hand. No? Okay. I actually do have a question for Matthew. At the steeplechase meeting the other day, we heard about a letter that was written. Would you be so kind as to enlighten us as to what that letter was and who it went to? And if there was a letter, it actually needs to be given to the clerk because she's the keeper of our records.
Sure. The residents of Steeplechase were very concerned about the expansion of the Beeline Highway. It creates a number of difficult problems. It's going to be a grade that's high enough so that the cars are going to be visible to the residents. Additionally, there's going to be noise pollution, and the main problem is going to create a crime situation. Believe it or not, they're planning on putting a bike trail and a walking path right on Beeline Highway.
So,
if I could finish, you asked the question, I'm going to finish. So it creates a number of problems. So what I would encourage, since the other members to do here, is to also contact the Department of Transportation and express your feelings that we need to protect the residents of Steeplechase. So please, all the things that you heard from them when you were sitting there at the meeting, take those to heart, and the things that you heard from the chief, take those to heart, and do everything you can to support that endeavor. So thank you.
Okay, but my question was, did you write a letter?
I wrote an email.
To?
Yes, I did.
Okay, because this is the only place that we can talk about this.
Right.
Under Sunshine, which was commented, and I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't something, because it was intimated to us that they had the support of the council when it wasn't even a discussion that any of the council members had already had.
I think it's a misunderstanding, and I'm glad you asked me that. It was my opinion, but I do encourage the council to support the people at Steeplechase, and the things that you heard, I would encourage you to also write or contact someone and support this community.
Okay, so the email went from whom to whom, may I ask?
It went from me, and I'll get a copy of the person who it went to, but it was someone over at FDOT.
Okay, because that actually would, because it was brought up in their meeting, now it becomes, there may be a request for public, for documentation of it. So I was concerned because of the way it had come out. We talk about this at TPA, and we have had this discussion about it, and I've actually asked Nick Uren from the TPA to supply me, and which I will then supply the council, on what it's supposed to look like. It is still evolving, and it is 2022 before this actually takes place. So I just want to make sure and there isn't any person on this council that doesn't want safety for all of our communities. That's not why I asked the question. I just asked the question because there was an assumption made that the council had already talked about it. That was my interpretation of what happened that evening. So hold on, let me finish. I see you want to talk. Let me finish. My assumption was that something got sent, and whatever got sent, and you just cleared that up, something did get sent, it sounded to the gentleman who was the president of the Homeowners Association that it had the blessing of the entire council, which we had never had the discussion, so I don't want anybody to be wrong about this.
Well, you are wrong, and they also said that that they thanked you for your support. So perhaps you might want to discuss now what efforts you took, because they thanked you multiple times for your support. So what did you do to help Steeplechase?
Okay, Matthew.
Can I say something?
Sure, Rochelle, go ahead.
Being that we're a council of 5, in order for us to be on the same page on any issue, it was my understanding that the issue had to be brought before the council and discussed so we could direct whether a letter would be sent, whether they would be put on the agenda perhaps to come in, which I think is a great idea. I would be open to making a motion to having the steeplechase issue being put on an agenda and letting the people come so we can discuss and all hear the same thing at the same time.
Correct.
And I was a little taken aback when it came out that the discussions had been had and the rest of the council was kind of in the dark.
It's my understanding that they also contacted you, Councilmember Litt, and asked you for your help. And I don't know exactly what you did for the people, or if anything, but they need help. And they came to me, and I expressed my opinion as a council member of what I felt should be done there. And it was certainly only from me as a council member on behalf of this community who came to me and sought my help. And I was more than willing to help this community. And I would encourage everyone here to do the same as well. To the extent that we're talking about it, perhaps we should consider, once we have it formulated, some type of motion to support this community. And I think at the next meeting, I'd be more than willing to bring that to this council for a vote.
I did speak to members of that committee, but there's a big difference between speaking and taking unilateral action. And before taking any action, I would have brought it before the committee, the council, to discuss it.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Hold on.
I spoke to them and told them I would consider what we should do moving forward, but we have not really had much time in the past couple of months to bring that up, being, as the mayor said, this is not on the tomorrow list. This is coming, and we do have some time.
One thing I do want to comment on is that one of the things that did impress me about how the committee meetings were held at the legislature was that they paused and the chair recognized the next speakers, and I would appreciate that if we can just, if you want to speak, please motion and don't just cut everybody off. And so I think, Mark, I saw you waving, so I will recognize Mark at this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the question really isn't whether or not we as individuals want to support the community in steeplechase. We obviously would want to protect everybody in the city. The question really comes down to what is the best way for the city to receive information and to put together either a resolution or some type of documentation that allows this body as a whole to come up with language that would support something to protect the residents of Steeplechase when the time comes for the DOT to proceed with whatever they want to do.
Ron, you look like you have an answer.
Well, the proper procedure would be to direct staff to make a presentation of the issues as we understand them with that particular project and present them at a council meeting so the council meeting can obtain information, decide on what direction the council wants to go, and take action to go in the direction that they want to go in. So that would be the normal routine that we go through.
Thank you. And Matthew?
You're so attuned to my body language. Doesn't mean I'm going to speak. I just move up. That sounds like a great idea. I would encourage, and we'll talk about it in between now and the next meeting. Hopefully staff will look into it and we can have a presentation and hopefully a motion, because I'd really like to help these people.
And to clarify, what did occur on my account was like we do, Constituent Services was approached by someone in Steeplechase, who I then put them together with Chief Stepp, when he was still chief, to do a security check with them and walk the property with them. And that was my communication with them. This way they would get better answers on the efficiencies of their walls and their security and the trees and the landscaping and whatnot. So I think each council member here is concerned. We're concerned for the safety of all of our residents. I also know that it was never a discussion that we had, so I would like to have this discussion in a better manner, in a better forum, where we're all on board and we have all the information that we need so that we can move forward. And if we need to get Nick Uren or someone from FDOT here to help you augment your presentation, we certainly can do that. So that's about all I have.
We'll be glad to put together all the information we can and bring it back to the next council meeting. And through the normal process of council discussion and direction, and then the council usually directs communications by person or persons they wish to relay information. So generally it's the mayor or the city manager, depending on the circumstances, that we would prepare a letter and or a presentation and take it to whoever the direction is. So we'll be happy to put together all the information we can and bring it forth at the next meeting.
Thank you. And actually, Mark?
No, I said thank you.
Oh, good. I noticed that most everyone has left, including Mrs. Easton. Is it possible to put together something short and brief?
I'd be happy to put together something regarding the code enforcement activities for the Eastern property for the last 3, 4, 5 years, as well as address Ms. Magnuson's issue if you'd like to hear.
I would like that. I would appreciate it. Are there any other?
It'll be our pleasure.
Thank you. Any other questions for our city manager?
You're not going to do a rebuttal. You're not going to do a rebuttal about the stuff about me. I'm just teasing, Ron.
So, are we done with items for council action and discussion? Michelle, anything else? Okay. Do we have an attorney's report?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So, since we have nothing left to discuss, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:28.